Hello everyone, welcome to my channel DG Learning. I am Ranjita and I am going to give you the B.ed notes of paper 3, that is learning and teaching. Second semester, paper 3, learning and teaching, unit 4, teaching for meaningful learning. I have already given you the notes of unit 1, 2 and 3 of paper 3, that is learning and teaching, and today I am going to give you the notes of unit 4. Okay, be it semester 1, all the notes, all the topics we have completed, I've already given you the notes. You can take it. Those are the first year of first semester students. Okay, so let us start. Unit 4, teaching for meaningful learning. Teaching as instructing versus teaching as facilitating. What are the essential difference between training and facilitation? There are 5 differences. First one is the learning versus thinking. The essential first difference between the two fields is first and foremost that instructing is about passing on learning and content. The training provides theory, information, and activities to share and help retain the information. On the other hand, process facilitation is about helping the thinking in a group. The main difference is in almost simplistic terms, training is about learning and facilitation is about thinking. Second point is hierarchical versus collaborative. Hierarchical versus collaborative. The second big difference is the trainer really has to offer quite a bit of content in large or small blocks. So the emphasis is on a hierarchical model where the trainer is the teacher and the learner is the student who supposedly knows less than the trainer. That might be the assumption of the student, although it's not necessarily the assumption of the trainer. The facilitator model is based on it is a group of peers who have come together who themselves have the content. They need a structure to think through the information they have in a way that will result in something new and different. The facilitator provides the tools, structure, flow, calm, presence, and energy to guide the group. Third point is applying versus communicating. The third is that the trainer is really helping the group to apply the content he or she has given them. So the trainer would ideally contain a lot of demonstrating, practicing, and reinforcing of the concept that has been shared. And in the facilitator model, the emphasis is more on communicating. It is about helping team members share their data points, understand one another, build cohesiveness of ideas, and find ways to solve problems. It is not the role of the facilitator to reinforce any concept. However, many training techniques can be applied in facilitation setting to help the group be more successful in cementing a decision. Next is the fourth point, that is linear versus flexible. The fourth difference is in the design. Training or education comes from a hierarchical model threatens to be more of linear plan in the trainer's outline. In contrast, the facilitator always have to have a flexible agenda. They simply cannot predict what is going to happen as a result of a tool being used that changes where the group may need to go or decides to go. No matter how much you interview beforehand and how do you research, your jobs as a process facilitator is always to remain adaptable. You are changing and adapting in the moment. You are helping the group to do some complex weaving of their thinking. Okay, it's all about the facilitator. Next, that is the fifth point, is the longest term versus immediate. It's longest, GEST. Okay, longest term versus immediate. The final difference between the trainer and the facilitator is that the trainer is really focused on achieving a longer term outcome. They know that 1 day or 2 days or even 5 days of the training not going to necessarily have an immediate impact. The concepts have to be continually reinforced, practiced, refined for each situation. If this is done well in the long term, you will see some changes. However, when the person and or the organization does not do anything to reinforce the concept, then all that is taught is lost. The facilitator has more of an emphasis on the short term. The result may be, example, an immediate decision or an immediate concentrations. The result could simply be a profound discussion with your colleagues about something that needs to change. When you were doing planning, although the result is an immediate documented plan, it may take a number of years to implement. In general, as a process facilitator, you are looking for short term insights and often immediate results. Teaching as empowering learners. Some points are given here. Teaching कैसे कर रहा है? Increases students' readiness level. It's a meaningful teaching. Develop critical thinking. Give students a chance to ask questions. Providing and receiving feedback. Use of educational technology. Develop interest about learning. Goal-centered teaching to help students to identifying self-strength and weakness and to enable students to self-assess their it will be themselves. Enable students to self-assess themselves. Okay. So these are the points of teaching as empowering learner. Now comes to the Brunos model of teaching. Brunos model is the active process of inquiry-based instruction that encourages that learners to build on prior knowledge through experience and to search for new information and relationship based on their interest. Brunner was one of the founding fathers of constructivist theory. Brunner theoretical framework is based upon the theme that learner construct new ideas or concepts based upon existing knowledge. Learning is an active process. Brunos theory emphasizes the significance of categorization in learning. To perceive is to categorize. To conceptualize is to categorize. To learn is to form categories. To make decision is to categories. And interpreting information and experience by similarities and difference is a key concept. Now comes to the theory of Brunos. Brunos theory. Here it's 4 points are given, 4 features of Brunos theory of instruction. 4 features of Brunos theory of instruction. First is predisposition to learn. This feature specifically states the experiences which move the learner towards a love of learning in general. It's learner. To move the learner. To move the learner towards a love of learning in general or of learning something in particular. Motivational, cultural, and personal factors contribute to this. Brunner emphasized social factors and early teachers and parents' influence on this. He believed learning and problem solving emerged out exploration. Part of the task of a teacher is to maintain and direct a child's spontaneous explorations. Second point is the structure of knowledge. It is possible to structure knowledge in a way that enables the learner to most readily grasp the information. This is a relative feature as there are many ways to structure a body of knowledge and many preferences among learners. Brunner offered considerable detail about structuring knowledge. Understanding the fundamental structure of a subject makes it more comprehensible. Brunner viewed categorization as fundamental process in the structuring of knowledge. The discrepancy between beginning and advanced knowledge in a subject area is diminished when instruction centers on a structure and principle of orientation. This means that a body of knowledge must be in a form recognizable to the student's experience. Third point is the modes of representation. The representations could be visual, words, or symbols. Effective sequencing. Fourth point. Every learner adheres to sequencing according to their individual differences in learning sequencing can make learning, and lack of sequencing could make the learning process difficult. Form and pacing of reinforcement. Next is the categorization. Categorization. Brunner gave much attention to categorization of information in the construction of internal cognitive maps. He believed that perception, conceptualization, learning, decision making, and making inferences all involve categorization. Bruno suggested that a system of coding in which people from a hierarchical arrangement of related categories. Each successively higher level of categories becomes more specific, echoing Benjamin Bloom understands of knowledge acquisition as well as the related ideas of instructional scaffolding, जिसको हम लोग Bloom's taxonomy भी बोलते हैं. Okay, it's form. Okay, it's FO, form a hierarchical arrangement of related categories. ठीक है. Categories are rules that specify four things about objects. That is, the critical attributes required characteristics for inclusion of an object category. The second rule prescribes how the critical attributes are combined. The third rule assigns weight to various properties. And the fourth rule sets acceptance limits on attributes. There are several kinds of categories. First comes to the identity categories. Categories includes objects based on their attributes or features. Equivalent categories provides rules for combining categories. Equivalence can be determined by affective criteria based on the related functions. For example, car, truck, van, all are in the inverted commas. Could all combined in an exclusive category called motorcycle. देखो जितने भी है कार ट्रक वैन ये सारे को हम लोग एक कैटेगरी में डाल सकते हैं जिसको हम लोग मोटर व्हीकल बोल सकते हैं. ठीक है. सो उसी तरह से कैटेगरीज डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज को ये किया गया है. Or by a formal criteria, for example by science, law or cultural agreement. For example, an apple is still an apple whether it is green, ripe, dried, etc. ये आइडेंटिफाई किया गया है कि अगर ये आइडेंटिटी कैटेगरीज में आता है. एप्पल तो तभी भी एप्पल ही रहेगा ना अगर वो ग्रीन हो, राइपन हो, ड्राइड हो, जैसा भी हो. ठीक है. इट इज़ फूड फंक्शनल, उसका फंक्शन बताया, दैट इज इट इज फूड एंड इट इज अ मेंबर ऑफ बोटानिकल क्लासिफिकेशन ग्रुप, दैट इज अ फॉर्मल ग्रुप. क्लियर. Next is the coding systems are categorized serve to recognize sensory input. They are major organizational variables in higher cognitive functional going beyond immediate sensory data, involves making inference on the basis of related categories. Related categories forms a coding system. These are hierarchical arrangement of related categories. यही सबको हम लोग hierarchical arrangements भी बोलते हैं. Next comes to the application. Bruner emphasized four characteristics of effective instruction which emerged from this theoretical construct. First is the personalized instruction should relate to learners' predisposition and facilitate interest towards learning. Second is the content should be structured so it can be most easily grasped by the learner. Third is the sequencing. Sequencing is an important aspect for presentation of material. And fourth is that the reinforcement, rewards and punishment should be selected and paced appropriately. Okay. Next is the intellectual development. Bruner postulated three categories of intellectual development. The first stage he termed inactive. When a person learns about the world through actions or physical object and the outcomes of these actions, उसको हम लोग inactive बोलते हैं. The second stage was called as the iconic, where learning can be obtained through using models and pictures. And the final stage, that is the third stage, was symbolic, in which the learner develops is the capacity to think in abstract terms. Based on these three stage notion, Bruner recommended using in a combination of concrete, pictorial, then symbolic activates will lead to the more effective learning. Now comes to the types of discovery learning. Experiment, exploration, simulation-based learning, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning and वेब क्वेस्ट. ये सारी चीज़ आपके आएंगे डिस्कवरी लर्निंग में, कुछ आप डिस्कवर कर रहे हो नया. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट इज द क्लासरूम implications. Classroom implications. Active engages students' learning process, motivates students to participate, encourages autonomy and independence, promotes the development of creativity and problem-solving skills, provides an individualized learning experience. मैंने सबको पॉइंट में लिखा है, आप उसे एक लाइन में सेंटेंस बना सकते हो, ठीक है। टीचिंग इन डाइवर्स क्लासरूम, meaning generally all the students in a class will not be alike. They will differ in their physical and psychological traits as well as in behavior. Some may be gifted children, more others are average in their learning ability, and few others may be slow learners or suffering from learning disabilities or belong to marginalized sections of the society. Classrooms consisting of students with many dissimilarities is known as the diverse classroom. ठीक है, बहुत डिसिमिलरिटीज मतलब सारे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट स्टूडेंट्स. नाउ कम्स टू द टाइप्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी इन द क्लासरूम्स. पॉइंट्स आर गिवन. फर्स्ट इज द स्टूडेंट बैकग्राउंड. स्टूडेंट का कैसा बैकग्राउंड है, कहाँ से लाइक अभी दिया गया था मार्जिनलाइज सेक्शन ऑफ द सोसाइटी. ओके. कॉग्निटिव एटीट्यूड, डिफरेंट लेवल्स ऑफ मोटिवेशन फॉर लर्निंग अमंग स्टूडेंट्स. मतलब सबको आप एक ही बात बोल करके मोटिवेट नहीं कर सकते हो ना. So different levels of motivation for learning among students. Learning difficulties, diversity in lifestyle, and tolerance and acceptance. Okay. Now comes to the student background. अब यहाँ पे मैंने जितने भी points दिए हैं उसको एक एक करके explain कर रही हूँ. First is the student background. India is a country with many religions, caste and languages. Girls could also be found wearing traditional sari as well as modern dresses like churidar and gowns. In Indian classrooms, especially in urban classrooms, students have different mother tongues. Those who belong to various castes and religions are studying. Okay. Next is the cognitive attitude. Cognitive ability of students in the class may at different levels. In our classroom, we could see students with high cognitive abilities and those who are slow learners class may be at different levels. Though inclusive classrooms are highly useful for slow learners, parents of gifted children complain that education development of their children is affected. ठीक है, but सब में different ही abilities होते हैं. Okay. Different levels of motivation for learning among students. Students differ each other in their motivational level for learning. Family environment, cognitive aptitude, attitude of students towards school and education, etc. Students who face a lot of problems at home are not able to concentrate in their learning as their mind is affected with thoughts other than learning. Because of such emotional disturbances, their interest in learning decreases. Next is the learning difficulties. Those students may have average intelligence if they have learning difficulties. They will affect the learning interest of students, resulting in decrease of their learning efficiency. Diversity in lifestyle. As students from rural and urban areas differs in their habits and language style and commands, etc., they may not mix with each other and remain as separate islands. They may affect students' learning achievement. Next is the tolerance and acceptance. Mingling with different kinds of students and working together with them in learning activities enables students to understand the diversities in human beings and accept them in due course of time. Techniques of teaching in a diverse classroom. देखो मैंने कुछ एक ये बनाया है, उनके यहाँ थोड़ा सा मिस्टेक हुआ है. ये जो पॉइंट है, इस पॉइंट का ये टॉपिक के ये सारे पॉइंट्स है, ठीक है. ये अभी हम जो पढ़े पर्सनालिटी, जेंडर, डेवलपमेंट डिफरेंस, लर्निंग स्टाइल, लर्निंग एप्टीट्यूड एंड कल्चरल बैकग्राउंड, जो सबके डिफरेंट होते हैं, ठीक है, जो सबके डिफरेंट होते हैं. ये पॉइंट आता है हमारा टाइप्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटीज इन क्लासरूम. टाइप्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी इन क्लासरूम में ये वाला पिक्चर हम बनाएंगे, ठीक है. टेक्निक्स ऑफ टीचिंग इन अ डाइवर्स क्लासरूम, इसके जो पॉइंट्स है वो इधर है. ओके. टाइप्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी इन द क्लासरूम मैंने यहाँ पे लिख दिया है. ये जो है ये सारे टाइप्स ऑफ डाइवर्सिटी इन द क्लासरूम के हैं, ठीक है. टेक्निक्स ऑफ टीचिंग इन अ डाइवर्स क्लासरूम, इसके जो पॉइंट्स है वो हमारे यहाँ है. आइए हम लोग देखते हैं टेक्निक्स ऑफ टीचिंग इन अ डाइवर्स क्लासरूम. फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज द ग्रुप इन्वेस्टिगेशन लर्निंग, group project work, group interactive classroom sessions, cooperative learning, collaborative learning, and group discussions. Okay, these are the techniques of teaching in a diverse classroom. अब ये सारे जो पॉइंट्स है, ये 5 पॉइंट्स 6 पॉइंट्स, इन सबको हम आगे एक्सप्लेन करते हैं. ठीक है, लेट अस स्टार्ट वन बाय वन. Group investigation learning. This teaching technique introduced by Howard Thelen is based on relating learning with life environment. The students in the class will be divided into 7 groups, each with 3 or 4 students, and each group will for learning. Each group will investigate the learning assignments and submit its report. Later, all the groups will assemble together and share their learning experiences. ये तो हमारा group investigation learning. Next is the group project work. Another design of cooperative learning. The various work involved in the project may themselves each consisting of 5 or 6 students and complete the whole project. Next is the group interactive classroom sessions. This teaching techniques involves dividing the class into small groups, each consisting of 5 or 6 students, and assigning them different topics or subtopics of a subject, and asks the group members to discuss among themselves the content elements of the topic, subtopic assigned to their group, and engage in learning activities. Next is the collaborative learning. 2 or more students joining together, sharing their learning activities, and trying to achieve learning proficiency is known as collaborative learning. Evaluation of the performance of each group is done both by the teacher and the members of the respective groups. They also plan the ways and means of improving it. Next is the cooperative learning. Cooperative learning is a learning process which provides students to get opportunities to learn in a group by forming a number of teams, each consisting of a small number of students of different levels of learning abilities for understanding the subject. Next is the group discussion. The interchange of ideas between the teacher and the students resulting in active learning for the realization of the stipulated instructional objectives. The teacher initiates the classroom discussion by introducing the topic of the discussion, and the students are engaged to express their ideas freely without any inhibition. Next is the conducting group discussion. Planning and setting the stage for discussion, facilitating to continue the discussion, and evaluating the outcomes of the discussion. Next is the effective teaching in a diverse classroom. कैसे effective teaching हम लोग कर सकते हैं? Giving more importance to group work in a classroom activities, motivating students to actively engage themselves in, relating subject content with practical life, providing immediate feedback for the task completed students, taking care of giving more importance to students' interaction in the classroom teaching, and subject content is simplified and presented in the class, and paying special attention to students who are backward in learning. Next comes to the grouping for facilitating learning. Group facilitation is a process in which a person whose selection is acceptable to all members of the group, who is neutral and who has no substantive decision-making authority, diagnoses and intervenes to help a group improve how to identify and solve problem and make decisions to increase the group's effectiveness. Next is the ability grouping. Ability grouping is the educational practice of grouping students by potential or past achievement for a relevant activity. Ability groups are usually small, informal groups formed with a single classroom. Next is the heterogeneous grouping. Heterogeneous grouping is a type of distribution of students among various classrooms of a certain grade within a school. Gifted children will be scattered throughout the various grade level classrooms rather than all together in one classroom. So हम लोग heterogeneous बोलते हैं. Grouping by interest. An interest group or an advocacy group is a body which uses various forms of advocacy in order to influence public opinion and or policy. Interest group may also refer to special interest groups, a group of individuals sharing specialist knowledge. Next is the grouping by choice. Group choice based on the standard choice activity allows students to enroll themselves in a group within a course. The teacher can choose the groups offered and the maximum number of students allowed in each group. The students can view the members of each group before making a selection, and if the teacher allows it, changes their selected group until the deadline. Strategies for motivating students. What are the strategies? Promote growth mindset over fixed mindset. Develop meaningful and respectful relationship with your students. Grow a community of learners in your classroom. Establish high expectation and establish clear goals. Be inspirational. Fifth is the most important. Be inspirational. Next is the modes of teaching learning. First is the face-to-face mode. Face-to-face learning is an instructional method where course content and learning material are taught in person to a group of students. This allows for a live interaction between a learner and an instructor. Learners benefit from a greater level of interaction with their fellow students as well. Next point is the digital mode. Digital learning is a learning method based on the use of new digital tools to enable learners to learn in a different way. Whether it be face-to-face, distance learning, asynchronous or synchronous, or blended learning. Next is the individualized instruction. Individualized instruction is a method of instruction in which there is one-to-one teaching and self-paced learning based on an outline of progressive goals leading to the course or curriculum objectives. Courses appropriate for individualized instruction are usually those that require skills building. Next is the group-based. Group-based. Group work or cooperative learning is a method of instruction that gets students to work together in groups. Employers value a person's ability to work cooperatively. Indeed, studies shows that they value it more highly than the ability to work independently. This is the last point of this unit, that is the individualized instruction in classroom. It involves students in choosing a route, means choosing their route, make use of task, give individualized feedback and then share it. हर एक बच्चा के लिए एक feedback, okay? Check what vocabulary students know. Get students to create their own word list and cards. Ask more open questions about usage, not just meaning. Provide open homework task and make time to share the result. Okay, so this was the last topic or last point of this unit. As you know, as your syllabus, this is basically based on the Kulhan University syllabus. So as you can see in the syllabus, whatever the points, whatever the topics are given, I've covered all the topics. ठीक है, आपके सिलेबस में जितने भी जो भी टॉपिक्स देखे वो सारे टॉपिक्स मैंने कवर अप किया है. स्पेशली दिस इज फॉर द कुल्हान यूनिवर्सिटी वालों में जितने भी टॉपिक्स है वो सारे टॉपिक्स यहाँ पे कवर अप हैं. और बाकी यूनिवर्सिटी वाले लोग एक बार अपने सिलेबस से मैच कर लिए. उनके जो जो टॉपिक्स है काफ़ी हद तक मैच करते हैं. काफ़ी कुछ होता है B.ed में जो सेम ही होता है, बस एक दो टॉपिक से डिफरेंट होते हैं. ठीक है, सो बाकी यूनिवर्सिटी वाले लोग भी देख सकते हैं आराम से. उनको भी यहाँ से काफ़ी सारे पॉइंट्स मिल सकते हैं. पॉइंट्स आप अपने नोट्स खुद से बना सकते हो. क्लियर? एंड इफ दिस वीडियो इज़ हेल्पफुल फॉर यू, अगर आपको ये थोड़ा भी हेल्पफुल है B.ed में आपके नोट्स बनाने में, अगर ये हेल्प कर रहा है, देन प्लीज़ like this video and subscribe my channel. Okay, thank you for watching.